This is a very common question us recruiters get asked, probably on a daily basis. I'm asked this question, but I suppose it differs from individual to individual. It's about understanding what's important for you, what it is you're looking for in your next move, whether that's, the company values, the culture, and whether that's kind of aligned to your own values and so on, or, the progression opportunities that exist within that organization. There's a huge variety of accountancy positions and roles within industry. And I think before making the big move from practice into industry, it's important to, I suppose, understand what positions are compatible and aligned with your skill set and what it is you're looking for in your career. The next step, or the step you take outside practice, is it's a huge decision to make. What type of organization is it that you want to work in? What space? What industry? What size organization? What size finance function would you prefer working in a smaller type finance function or a larger setup, let's say with a big multinational? So it's important to factor all of those things in, and then certainly, it will come down to other kind of aspects, I suppose, as well, in terms of location and the salary and package that are on offer. I think before making a decision, it's crucial that you reach out to your network and your accountancy peers and people you've met along the way, throughout your time in practice that have maybe made a move. Get to understand what it is they've enjoyed, or maybe what they've, found challenging making that move, and try and make a decision then based on all those factors. I suppose starting off your career, or making a change in your career can be quite challenging. But it's important, first and foremost, to understand, I suppose, your motivations and what it is you're looking for. Once you understand that, then it's easy to kind of think about your strengths and how you can use these strengths, I suppose, in a professional environment. I would always say reach out to your network, speak to maybe old school friends, college friends, friends of the family, just to get a taste of maybe different sectors and industries. And then once you do, you can always reach out then to recruiters just to ask for advice, or maybe to put together a professional CV.
I think there's several different areas to research information about which financial service companies are hiring and where it might be suitable for you. So you've also got the job boards, of which there are several. So eFinancial Careers is obviously very popular. That's specifically relevant to the financial service and banking sector. The most popular ones in Ireland then would be irishjobs.ie. There's jobs.ie, which is separate to irishjobs.ie. You've got Indeed, and there's two or three others. Monster would be another popular one. So I think the useful thing about the job boards is you get to see who's actively hiring right now for roles in your space. I guess to expand beyond that, then you're looking at there's various groups. So the centralbank.ie website would have a list of companies who are, say, in the lending space, for example. You've got financedublin.com or .ie, which I think has a pretty big database of of organisations. They have a journal actually that comes out once a year, and it lists all the different categories of asset managers, banks, etc. So I think outside of that, then LinkedIn is probably very useful to pinpoint the exact hiring managers as to who the specific people are within the different organizations. But I guess starting with the internet really and just delving into more detail about the specific areas should see you on the right track. So I think the advantage of working with someone in the human resource profession when speaking to an employer or a potential employer about a company, you've got a couple of different sides, right? I think first of all, really getting a good sense of the organization's culture and the type of people they look to attract is very, very useful. So I think a good question to ask is, maybe a little bit about the behaviors. People have been successful over the years within the company. What's enabled them to be successful. What are the type of people they look to attract in the organization, and then really getting a sense of the company's values. And by that, what you're looking for is, what type of people are they looking to attract. What does the company stand for? So that's effectively that side of it, relating to the culture side. I guess the other side then you're looking at is, what comes under the broader sort of terms, conditions, benefits, etc. And every company is different in that regard. Sometimes people feel that larger companies might offer more in relation to sort of pensions, bonuses. Not always the case. but it's certainly useful to understand if there's maybe a study support package. Some companies offer an employee assistance program, which is obviously very useful, and there's various other pieces. So I wouldn't just see HR as being, useful for information about terms and conditions. Great opportunity to try and find out as much as you can about the company, the culture, and the type of people working there. So in relation to interview preparation for senior finance positions, I think the best thing to do is just to be prepared. It's obviously a cliche, but I think going into the interview, if you're fairly excited about the company, what we say is if you're able to sell the company to someone, that's usually a good start, basically, because you're highly likely to be asked at some point what interests you about the role, what interests you about the company, and if you're able to provide, a good energetic answer, I think that's a good way to go. I think breaking it down in terms of the job spec, having a really good look, it's obviously common enough, but people would sit down maybe with a highlighter and really sit down maybe looking at the experience of what's listed on the job spec, and it's really just example. So there's a sort of a theory or a belief that rather than asking you how you would deal with a situation, you're more likely to be asked as to how you've dealt with the situation in the past. And I don't think there's an expectation that you'd have done everything that's listed on the job spec, otherwise it mightn't be a challenge to you, but really being able to give a good overview of what you've done in the past, how you've dealt with different challenges. And then, in relation to leadership, I certainly think it's useful to share, an idea of where you've had success and then maybe some mistakes you've made in the past and how you've addressed them. The questions you ask are going to be important. So I think trying to get a really good idea, what would be expected from you in the first 6 months if you were to come in and really nail the position, what would be expected of you, I think would be really good to understand. And then when you're finished, just make sure you tell them you're interested. I think it's a great way to finish an interview. Thank the people for their time, tell them you're interested, and hopefully you get a call back then the next few days after.
The benefits candidates are looking for in today's market, I think, particularly on what's gone on the last few months, health insurance, that's very important. It's allowed people to look at their current situation. Your health is your wealth, as the saying goes. So I think if companies support that, it's very important for the staff members. And I think also would be a pension. I think people are also planning for the future. A lot of companies nowadays will contribute towards your pension. So they'll match it on a certain salary scale, and depending on the level of the role. But I think there are two important key benefits that most candidates look for nowadays. The most important qualifications that hiring managers look for would be the APA qualification as a minimum. So a lot of the roles that I have on at present, clients will not look at candidates without the APA. So I think it's important, like the feedback I've got from clients in the past is that some candidates will be with a company for 2 to 3 years and they haven't got past that APA stage for whatever reason, whether it's personal, that they can't take on exams. That really holds candidates back. So the advice I would give would be to get through your exams, because most companies will support them. So it's important to get through them as quickly as possible. Obviously, that you can take on that workload because you're going to be working during the day and studying at night. So if you can, I would definitely look at getting that APA qualification, and then you can go on and do your CIP and then your MDI and ACII. So that would be my advice around the qualifications that hiring managers look for. I think it's important for grads looking to get into the industry that they align their career goals with a company that offers progression, and you get plenty of exposure to different areas of the business. What I would do as a good kind of exercise would be to go onto LinkedIn, look at some ex-employees and some current employees at the moment in the company, and see where they've moved from an entry-level position to a team lead role to a managerial role, and what space of time that seems to have taken. If you see a lot of staff members left in the space of a year, well then maybe there mightn't be then progression opportunities there for you. So that's definitely one thing to look for. The other area I would look at would be the Insurance Institute. I think there's plenty of information on the website regarding education, your exams, there's the APA exam, the CIP exam. So looking at that and the criteria for it to see if it's a road you would like to go down, because clients will look for that. It's an important part of your career.
We are unfortunately in the situation now where there's quite a high supply in some areas of talent versus the available roles. How hiring managers are getting over the challenge of working through these is going beyond the technical skills that's required for a particular role and actually looking at things like motivation and personality suitability. This can be particularly relevant at the grad level where perhaps they don't have as much work experience to draw from. So my suggestion on the graduate side and on the candidate side in general is that you would look at your CV and put it down beside the job spec. And line by line, just join up all the areas that you feel you have experience relevant to the job description itself. I would say even where the soft skills, maybe times if it's a teamwork role where you can draw from teamwork, or any areas that can be remotely associated to the two. And this is going to serve two purposes for you. First of all, it's going to help you understand in much better detail what the day-to-day of this role is going to look like and whether it's going to be a fit for yourself. But number two, it's going to put you in the mindset to be answering the questions about yourself in the context of the role that you're looking to do. That's number one, motivation, really a key piece in terms of understanding whether someone's going to be a fit for hiring managers. The second piece that is becoming more and more popular now is different types of testing. So companies are inviting people to do mental agility tests, different types of situational awareness tests, and in particular one of our partners, McQuaid psychometric testing. This is something that myself and a number of the team are trained in, and what it does is essentially shows what the sort of personality of a person is, what their preferred behaviours are, and it can be very helpful in understanding, number one, if this person's going to be a fit for a role, but it's actually very good in terms of developing interview questions, also very good in terms of coaching for existing staff. The psychometric testing is very good at objectively revealing somebody's character, what makes them tick and what sort of situations they work well in, and it can be invaluable for both the candidate and the hiring manager in understanding how best to support someone's career development. We're obviously in the midst of, and hopefully now coming out of, a very difficult time for recruitment. I think what we faced in late March and through April was challenges from the hiring manager side in terms of dealing with internal issues, and that pretty much put a hard stop on a lot of recruitment. It wasn't necessarily that the demand wasn't there, but there were other immediate challenges that the businesses need to face in order to deliver for their clients. Moving on from that, May and June definitely seen the market open up a bit, and in particular business critical roles like compliance or more senior accountancy positions and financial positions from financial controller up. And that's progressed again now through June and July in terms of seeing the more team-based and operational side open up as well. So what we're faced with now is probably a little more normalised market where there's across most areas demand, but at lower levels, let's say maybe in the 60% region versus what it was in January and February of this year. So I would say that sounds bad, but it's actually not a bad space to be in, and the important piece is that it's moving in the right direction now. With regards to financial services versus banking, so financial services has weathered it a little bit better, and that's possibly down to some of the temporary regulations brought in by the government in terms of the consumer lending and mortgage space in particular, with regards to payment breaks for people. But hopefully that washes through, and so long as the banking side isn't facing significant bad debts out of that, once repayments start, there should be a good flow of roles coming into that market as well. So when it comes to deciding whether you want to work in a small business or a large business, it's largely down to your personal working style and where you feel most engaged. There's definitely benefits to both sides. I think the obvious larger firm side would be looking at things like really well structured grad programs with really transparent opportunities for progression. I think the structured training programs, the really transparent track record of people progressing through the business, and the opportunities to diversify your career and very limited glass ceilings, it can be a huge attraction for people, especially at an early stage in their career. But that's not to say by any stretch that there isn't a lot of attractive pieces around small organisations as well. I think one of the big benefits of working with small companies is gaining direct access to senior level people in the business. So up to director level, you can come in at a very early stage and be working with some very high level people. And the other piece is from a job satisfaction perspective, smaller businesses give you an opportunity to impact the business at large, so get strategic level exposure at a very early stage in your career. I think it's certainly the case that, you know, there's good opportunities to grow your career in small businesses. Sometimes it can be the case that you need to be a little bit more open. So if you have a very fixed idea about where you want to be in the future, sometimes that larger organization can provide that transparency. Smaller businesses, definitely very strong long-term opportunities, but sometimes it's the case that people who join these companies grow with the business and the career can progress in that direction. So I think a lot of good reasons to think about most, but ultimately it comes down to where do you feel the best fit is. I would always say get yourself into a good organization first, and build your career join a company who's going to support you in terms of your career progression. So motivation from the outset is a very good thing to get across in interviews, and understanding how your career can be supported, and that would apply equally to both large and small businesses.